Hello. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Just for Today podcast. Steph Grainger here, as always, on a Monday morning or whenever it is you're listening to me. I'm still a bit full of cold. Today it's decided to morph into more of a cough. So for those of you listening, if you happen to hear me cough, just keep moving. So I've been pondering a lot since the release of last week's episode, which was all talking about regret and the power of regret, really, and how, should we choose, we can allow regret to shape us into the woman we want to be. And I was driving in my car today and I was thinking about, I've been talking a lot about regret, obviously, over the last week. And, I made a bold statement in last week's episode and I said that I don't regret a single thing in my life or any decisions that I've made. I still stand by that. And I know for some people that's quite tricky thing to hear, particularly if they're going through something really gritty right now that was a decision they made that didn't pan out quite how they wanted it to. So I'm going to make an even bolder statement today, because as I was driving around in my car, this is where I get a lot of my inspiration from. I either get ideas for the podcast in the shower or when I'm driving, which is obviously when I'm thinking of other things. I'm not in work mode. And often when I'm driving, I'm blasting a playlist out, or tunes that I love. So I'm really kind of distracted. The unconscious is driving the car. And that's where kind of the cogs are turning without me even noticing it. And it occurred to me as I was driving my car today, the life that I now have as a result of my sister's death. Now, I spoke last week in the episode, I touched on Collateral Beauty. I've spoken about it many times on this podcast, but it is a vein that runs through everything that I do. And when I speak about the power of regret, I'm talking again about Collateral Beauty. And the thought that entered my head today was, you have a very beautiful life. As I stand here right now, or sit here right now, I'm very grateful for the life I have. I have 3 very healthy children, grown adults now. I have a husband that supports me unconditionally and loves me in ways that I didn't even know existed. My circle of friends are stunning, just incredible. I feel that I'm extremely grateful for the life that I have right now. And sometimes I wonder what it would have looked like if my sister hadn't have got ill and if she hadn't have passed away. And it's a sliding doors moment. And if any of you remember that movie, it is those moments where something happens that changes or potentially changes the direction of your life and you don't know it in that moment. You don't know by making that train or missing that train what might happen in both scenarios. And neither can we ever know that. Obviously, the movie Sliding Doors shows you both ends of the story. But when it comes to such a pivotal life event for me, which was the loss of my sister, in that moment, the game changed. My life 360'd. And it was never going to look like I thought it was going to look ever again. Because no matter what I was going to do at that time in my life, she was always going to be in the picture. And her passing meant that she was never going to be in the picture physically, ever again. And I never thought, certainly in those first few years, that I would ever look back at that life event and show gratitude to it, to be able to go, because of her passing, my life looks like this, and I'm grateful for that. And I know that she would be absolutely rejoiced at hearing me talk like this. I know that she would have absolutely hated or been heartbroken to see the devastation of her loss. And I believe she's beside me every day. I believe she's probably sitting here right now enjoying the absolute fact that I'm talking about her on my podcast, because what most people don't know about my sister, because they didn't get to know her, the women in my network, women in my circle, is how much she loved attention and thrived on it, absolutely thrived on it. So the fact that she comes up in my work all the time would just be, she would just absolutely love that. But to be able to kind of sit here and look back and go, wow, all of this because of one thing, one momentous, tremendous, huge motherfucking thing that happened in my life, set off a chain of events that I would never have been able to predict were coming. Some really sad, some absolute joyful moments, and some stuff in the middle of all of that was pretty, mundane stuff. I was 19, I was living in America, living the time of my life. I was having the most fun I don't think I ever imagined was possible, but I was. And all of that changed. All of that changed. I came home, and within a few months of being home after Kate died, my first son decided now was the time to come along and bring hope and joy and all of that stuff to the family. So it set off what was an absolutely devastatingly heartbreaking event, set off a chain of beautiful events, which is why I am so absolutely passionate about Collateral Beauty, and why I talk about it, and why I want women to understand it, and why I want you to be able to see it as a possibility for you. Like, I know when you're knee deep in all of the dark experiences and things that life is showing you that you don't want to be shown, I know it's very difficult to see that. But I promise it's available to you at some point when you're ready to turn on adjust your gaze to that. And that's why I talk a lot about reframing, why I talk about regret and the power of regret, and why it's so vitally important that we revisit things that have been really difficult for us, that actually we have the possibility for those events to shape us in a way that's really helpful for us. I posted in my WhatsApp group a few days ago, what is one thing that you're most regretful of, as opposed, because of the episode of the podcast last week. And some of the things that were coming out, I'm not going to share too much because it's a private community, but it would be things like giving time to people that didn't deserve my time, and making decisions in relationships or entering into relationships that weren't good for me, those types of things. And I think we can look at those through a different lens should we choose to. And when I think back to the year I spent in America, and if you're watching on YouTube, I'm kind of smirking right now, because let's just say that was a year of experience as a woman for me. And I learned a lot about what things aren't supposed to look like. And I'm not going down a dark road here. I'm talking about two consenting human beings that want to be in each other's lives, but aren't necessarily compatible in one area, if you get my drift. And I look back and think, wow, what I learned about that is that that's not something for me, or actually I prefer this. And it's quite amusing to me to be reflecting on this. And Tom, who edits my podcast, is probably just thinking, Jesus Christ, woman, what are you talking about? But, we're going to go with this. But there, that's a moment I look back on and I smirk and I smile and think about, wow, that was a bit fumbly, that experience. But it taught me something about myself. It taught me so much about myself. There was a TikTok video I looked at maybe this morning or yesterday or whatever, and it was asking really poignant questions like, if you could go back to one moment in your life and have a conversation with that person that you was talking to, what would you do? Or where would you go? And I instantly went back to my sister's hospital bed, and it was 6 weeks before she died. And I'd come home from America, I'd come home for good. And I'd been home a few times whilst I was living there because I was under contract for work. So I came home and this was I'm back. And I had 6 weeks with her. And she wanted to hear everything that I'd been up to. And we laughed and we laughed and we laughed. And I told her things that no one will ever know. And she told me things that I will never share with anybody else. And I was telling us about some of these moments that I had in America. And it was just it was a lovely moment, but it was almost a moment of, she wanted to get as much out of information from me in the small time that we had left. And it was one of those really beautiful, poignant moments. And when I think back to it now, I just think I'm so grateful for that. I was so grateful for that time. You know, shortly after that time, I was so fucking angry. Like, I only had 6 weeks, that's not fair. But now I look back and just think, wow, I'm so grateful for that 6 weeks that I had, that I was able to share those beautiful moments with her, that life that I just had in America for a year, that was just full of so many funny moments, so many. And then able to share those with her and for her to get joy out of that moment as well. Now, after she died, I did have a lot of guilt and sadness about the fact that she was here for 17 years and I'd missed almost one of them. But as I sit here now and I'm talking to you now, I don't feel any of that at all, because I go back to that conversation every time I go, but look at the exchange that came and the joy she got from living through you in those moments. So when I talk about collateral beauty, this is what I'm talking about. And it's a hard thing to express because it's more of a feeling than it is of words. Collateral beauty to me is a feeling. It's an opportunity that's available to everybody to reflect on a situation and think, what did I learn about that? What did that teach me about me? You know, I was talking to another client this week and we were very much reflecting on a relationship of sorts that she's in and whether it's something she wanted to continue pursuing. I said, well, you know, best case scenario here is you've got some stuff to add to your non-negotiable list as you go forward. If you decide this person isn't for you, you got a list that you can now make out, well, this relationship isn't for me because this wasn't available to me, this person, it wasn't emotionally available to me, whatever it is that you felt was missing in that relationship, that goes on your non-negotiable list as you move forward. And we don't repeat the same patterns, we don't repeat the same things, because we learn from that. And I think if you can just tune yourself into that, if you can just tune yourself into where's the collateral beauty currently in what I'm experiencing, and it could be something really teeny or it could be something really big, but it doesn't matter because it's still teaching you something about yourself and it's still allowing you to be able to move forward with the next level of you, with a better version of you. And as I say, it could be the tiniest thing, like, well, I learned that I don't like frickin' poached eggs. I don't know. I know where that came from. It's from the movie Runaway Bride. But it could be that you just learned something you don't like about food you don't like, things that aren't acceptable to you in a relationship. Like, it's not acceptable that we go to bed separately. Like, I want a companion. I want someone that wants to go to bed with me every night and we say goodnight every night to each other and whatever. It allows you just to shed your skin just a teeny bit more and keep stepping into the best version of you and keep moving. And that to me is how I'm going to explain collateral beauty to you today. Every time I talk about it, it comes out slightly different. But I got this, when this thing popped into my head as I was driving my car. My life began when my sister's ended. The life I have today began when my sister's ended. And I'm so fucking grateful to her for that. I really am. And I'm so grateful for the life that I have. And it's not been easy. And there have been moments where it's been so painful. But as I sit here today, I'm telling you, I am so grateful that the day my sister's life ended, mine began. And I am grateful to her for that. And I'm grateful to myself for that. And what I want to leave you with, just for today, is just find one thing in your life today that has made you the woman you are today. Because I promise once you turn that switch or you turn it on and you set the intention that I am going to find collateral beauty in something that has tested me in my lifetime up till now, I promise you it will flick a switch that will enhance your life. Until next time.